Hey everyone, welcome to Question Period Rewind. I'm Donna Skelly, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. Get ready to travel back in time to 1986, the year when Microsoft went public, the Oprah Winfrey Show was first syndicated, and when Wayne Gretzky was at the top of his game with the Edmonton Oilers, breaking his own NHL record for the most assists and the most points in a season. These are records, by the way, that he still holds to this day. Now, let's take a listen to what the House was talking about.
Oral questions. The Leader of the Opposition.
With the holidays coming, Mr. Speaker, I can hardly wait to get a copy of your remarks and have a chance to study them over the holiday season. I have a question for the Minister of Labour. Last week, my colleague raised with you the very unfortunate circumstances, potentially dangerous circumstances, I suppose, that an injured worker has to be put through. In the event, as happens with all of the injured workers, they have to go to Downsview with the current problems overhanging the hospital. I wonder if the Minister today, having had several days to reflect upon the problem, is prepared to rise in his place and indicate that injured workers will have an option other than being required to go to Downsview.
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not certain what the honourable gentleman means by the word dangerous, but, Mr. Speaker, it should be clear to the Leader of the Opposition, and indeed to all members of the House, that very often there is an alternative to Downsview, that very often an injured worker goes to Downsview on the recommendation of his or her physician, because the physician, for whatever reason, believes that the assessment work that needs to be done in the workers' community cannot, for whatever reason, be done. So injured workers, in many cases, certainly can get the assessment and treatment work done in their own community should their physician request that it be done there. Now, on those occasions, however, where the assessment needs to be done at Downsview, I think I can assure injured workers, Mr. Speaker, that there is no need for them to worry about going to Downsview, and that indeed, as the Leader of the Opposition knows, by the beginning of the year we will have an Office of the Worker Advisor in place in Downsview, and should injured workers believe they have need of that office, they certainly can refer for its services as quickly as they need to.
Supplementary?
I know for the sake of being accurate and not being perceived as perhaps making a statement which the public would not misunderstand, I know the Minister would want to clarify the case. I know the Minister would share with me the view that there are referrals made by the Board, not to a variety of places, but to Downsview. Now, our information, having spoken to several sources at Downsview this morning, is that 50% of the injured workers being contacted and being referred there are now declining to go. So you've put them in this position. They must go to a facility that they don't want to go to, that they're worried about, where women are forced, so the allegations say, to shower in front of men, and where drug and alcohol abuse are reported to be rampant. You are putting them in a circumstance where they either must go there against their wishes or lose their right to compensation. Now, that is the fact.
Question.
What option does the Minister suggest, and what has he done to provide an option for workers who don't want to put themselves through that circumstance?
Minister?
Right.
Mr. Speaker, I regret that we haven't yet had time to complete the beginnings of a program for decentralization of these kinds of services, which we wish to put in place. There have been a number of discussions, as the Leader of the Opposition may know, with organizations in Thunder Bay and Sudbury and a number of other communities as to establishing those kinds of services which have been delivered in the past in Downsview in those communities. Mr. Speaker, I do not have any figures as to any problems which may or may not be being encountered in terms of injured workers attending at Downsview when their attendance is necessary. I reiterate for the Leader of the Opposition and for members of injured workers who might have to go to Downsview that in many cases alternative arrangements can be made with the advice and with the approval of the attending physician for this kind of work to be done in the injured workers' own community. Injured workers should request that of their physicians, and should they go to Downsview, I can certainly assure those workers that if there are any problems, they can speak to the Office of the Worker Advisor. And Mr. Speaker, I would just add one final thing. I think the showering example used by the Leader of the Opposition is a most unfortunate one, since the only showering which is done in public view is one which is done by both males and females with bathing suits on prior to using the pools in Downsview.
Final supplementary.
Minister, let us be accurate. For thousands and thousands of workers, they do not have an option. They are required by the board to go to Downsview in order to get their compensation. Now, for those injured workers, the issue is not whether you want to decentralize into North Bay and Sudbury. Of course, that's not the question we're asking. The issue is for the thousands of workers who are required to go there to get their benefits. What steps are you taking, given the horrendous allegations that have been made, given that there are thousands of workers who may be at risk? The minister will have to acknowledge that, who may be at risk. He must acknowledge that, or else he wouldn't have conducted yet another task force study, who may be at risk. You are saying to the workers, while we review this once again, review this, I, the minister, am prepared to sit back and let thousands of you go through with no alternative, even if you don't want to, while the study is being conducted. My final supplementary to the minister is, what specific arrangements are you making so that thousands of workers won't need to be forced to go through a facility which you yourself are acknowledging has to undergo further study and review?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think it would be useful for us to review the kinds of investigations that are underway. First of all, there have been a number of matters which I'm sure the Leader of the Opposition would acknowledge might be criminal in nature, and that matter is being investigated by the Metropolitan Toronto Police. There have been a number of very serious allegations raised, allegations which don't put patients at risk, but can certainly contribute to a very unpleasant atmosphere, allegations of alcohol and drug abuse and the like. Allegations that are not unlike those which are faced in many other hospitals in the province. And as the Leader of the Opposition would know if he'd read the inquiry team report from last week, a number of very specific actions are being undertaken to ensure that kind of abuse by patients, an abuse of the privileges of other patients, is ended and is ended quickly. Finally, the inquiry team which we put in place on Thursday of last week is an inquiry team which is designed to review the program at Downsview and to ensure that the kind of program delivery that we all want, that all honourable members want, is the most effective that we'll have anywhere in North America. Mr. Speaker, a lot of that work was already underway within the board. It was very clear to this minister that the legitimate views, legitimate concerns of the injured worker community would not be satisfied without the kind of external team, and that's why I'm so pleased that Mr. Stoughton and others have consented to join the team and to put in place an outstanding program in Downsview.
New question. New question, the Leader of the Opposition.
The minister is so devoid of authority within his own ministry that you are prepared to allow the situation to go unattached and unattended for a long period of time, and it's inexcusable. My second question is for the Minister of Labour as well. When we asked your leader on December 4th about the problem surrounding workers being forced to work on Sunday against their will, he responded as follows, quote, I am sorry I cannot tell my honourable friend what section of what statute would apply in the circumstances, but I can assure my friend that if there is not a statute that is applicable, we will bring one into the House to protect those people. Now that, yes, as the member for York South says, he'll make one up. Well, when the Attorney General returned to the House the next day, I presume he told the Premier that he wasn't prepared to do that, because the next quote we have from the Premier indicates in the media, which often with the Premier is the more authentic reference point, indicates that one shouldn't rush. He says, nevertheless, the government cannot give just an emotional response under the pressures of one particular day, end quote, so there may not be legislation.
The question is?
I wonder, with another Sunday coming, regardless of what happens with the court outcome on Thursday, a Sunday where there'll be extensive shopping, I wonder if the Minister of Labour could tell us whether he is prepared to follow the earlier directive of the Premier, bring in legislation, or whether he's following the directive of the Attorney General, which is no legislation.
Which is?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman will know that in terms of full-time workers, there is a legislative mandate under the hours of work provisions of the Employment Standards Act, which limits the amount of work that a worker can be required to undertake in a week to 48 hours in a week, and that is certainly in place. And members of the people in the workforce, whether they're in the manufacturing community or whether they're in the retail community, certainly have the right to decline additional work after working 48 hours in any given week.
Supplementary?
Now, come on, Minister. Even you can't get away with this sort of thing. The question was not whether workers can be forced to work more than 48 hours. The question is, can they be forced to work on Sunday? Now, when we asked your leader, when we asked the Premier on December 4th, he didn't know whether there was a law in place that would prohibit that. And he said if there isn't and he can't find one, then he'll bring one in quickly. It is now, a week and a half later. We've now gone by 2 Sundays where employees have been forced to work, and you refuse to act as Minister of Labour. Remember when you used to be Minister for Labour? Minister of Labour, to stop it. Now, my simple question to you today is, are you going to bring in legislation, as the Premier promised on December 4th, to protect employees against being forced to work
Minister?
on Sunday?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would point out to my honourable friend that the Retail Business Holidays Act doesn't fall under this ministry. And, Mr. Speaker, I want to make the point that the Attorney General made it clear that those who ran into a difficulty in terms of being forced to work should contact him. I gather that there has certainly been a level of compliance with the Act pending the decision by the Supreme Court this Thursday. I would think that the honourable leader of the opposition might wish to wait until the Supreme Court makes its ruling this Thursday.
Final supplementary?
Only one of 2 things can happen on Thursday, Minister. Either the legislation will be upheld, in which case next Sunday will be like last Sunday and the Sunday before and the Sunday before, which is thousands of employees being forced by their employers to work illegally on Sunday, but forced to work, or the courts will throw out the legislation, in which case Sunday will be wide open and hundreds of thousands, no, tens of thousands of employees will be forced to work on Sunday, devoid of the protection which the Premier promised on December the 4th. Now, my question to the Minister of Labour is this. You can't duck the issue behind the lawsuit. It has nothing to do with amending a piece of legislation that's currently before the courts.
The question is?
Next Sunday, employees are going to be forced to work regardless of what the court rules on Thursday. My question to the Minister is, are you going to meet the commitment that your Premier gave on December 4th to bring in legislation to protect workers from being forced to work on Sunday or not?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable leader of the opposition might go back and reread the preamble to his very first question. I think he knows what the Premier of the province has said, and I think that this government has been following the appropriate course. I note with interest, Mr. Speaker, the comment made on June the 12th, 1985, by the then Attorney General, the honourable member for Cochrane South, when he made the comment in terms of deferring possible amendments to Sunday closing, and I quote, "Since the validity of the provincial Sunday closing and holidays law under the Retail Business Holidays Act is now before the court in another legal proceeding, we've decided to defer consideration of other amendments in this area until we have an interpretation of the Charter." That's what your colleague said. That's what your colleague said in June of 1985, Mr. Speaker. I just thought it might be useful for the Leader of the Opposition to hear that comment.
New question. New question. Order. New question, the member for York South.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Minister of Community and Social Services.
Order. Order. We don't want the environment to change too much in here. Order. The member for Cochrane South. Order. Order. New question, if the members would the member for Cochrane South refrain? New question, the member for York South.
Mr. Speaker, the question that I have is for the Minister of Community and Social Services. I was interested in a comment that the Minister made today about the difference between the fact that there are significant differences, I think is the word that he used, between, on the one hand, private profit-making nursing homes and on the other, charitable and municipal homes for the aged. He goes on to say, and I'm quoting, Mr. Speaker, "We're confident that boards of directors of our charitable homes are deeply concerned about the quality of care for their clients. By implication, or by omission certainly, the private sector homes are not." I wonder, Mr. Speaker, if that is the view of the Minister and of the Ministry with regard to care that is provided for our seniors, why is it that we are now on the verge, as we were in 1972 with seniors, of seeing the province of Ontario provide daily capital cost and other direct subsidies to private profit operators for children who are in daycare centers? I wonder if the Minister can explain the complete discrepancy between his comments with respect to nursing homes and the policy which he is about to announce with respect to daycare.
Mr. Speaker, the reference to the statement that I made today is intended to convey the import that homes for the aged, whether they be operated by charitable boards or by municipal boards, in fact are operated by community boards, whereas nursing homes are not. They're operated by a single private operator. And the import of the statement was also intended to convey the fact that those boards have a responsibility to ensure themselves that the services to the elderly in the homes for the aged, in fact, are met. That's the point. I am not in any way saying that the service being offered in private nursing homes is not a good service. I didn't say that. I was making the distinction as to where there was a board, a community board responsibility, and where there was not. That's the distinction.
Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, in all that words, I did not hear an answer to my question. The province of Ontario and the government of Ontario, under the leadership of the Minister, is now about to do for childcare what the Tory party did to the nursing home industry in 1972. The Liberal Party of Ontario is about to institutionalize and allow to grow chain centres, multinational enterprises, which are going to move into the childcare field because they see it as a place to make money, because it's going to be supported directly by the government of Ontario. If the Minister doesn't understand that, he doesn't have his eyes open. I'd like to ask the Minister, how can he justify that kind of expenditure for private profit operators at a time when there are literally tens of thousands of parents who are waiting, who are on waiting lists, who are waiting to find places for their children, whose kids are in unlicensed centers, whose kids are in spaces that are not being adequately supervised today? Why is your priority now to give aid to those who are operating child care centers for a profit?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think the correlation is an apt one, because there is no intention, to the best of my knowledge, for the Ministry of Health to do away with private nursing homes, simply because they are part of the existing system. Although there is a responsibility on the part of my colleague from London North to examine a comprehensive plan for all long-term care. We're doing the same thing with respect to daycare, a comprehensive overall plan for daycare. But there is also the recognition that within the existing system, 50% of the licensed spaces are in the commercial market. All we are saying is, given that reality and given the impossibility of replacing those roughly 50,000 spaces, that we have to deal with them. And that if we're going to make changes in the overall system, we have to recognize that part of the system as well. Not that we're giving any special attention to it.
Final supplementary, the member for Ottawa Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the minister can understand what he's saying. He's saying that we've got a daycare system which meets a tiny fraction of the need. We're talking about 80,000 spaces for 335,000 small children who need care in Ontario. And he says, well, half of those 80,000 are being served by the commercial sector, therefore we're going to give money to the commercial sector. But doesn't he understand that once he starts doing that, the commercial sector is going to be the growing sector, and it's going to be the sector that provides care for children in Ontario, and we're going to fall into the same trap as we've done with nursing home services for the elderly in this province.
Right on. Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't think that necessarily follows, because I would point out to the honourable member that just as there's a rough 50-50 split between commercial and non-profit in the daycare centre, so is there also between homes for the aged and nursing homes, a roughly 50-50 split with respect to beds. The point that we're clearly making, and I have said this before in response to the honourable member, is that our new initiatives are going to be primarily in the non-profit sector. We have said that over and over again. But what we are also saying is that we have a very significant portion of that system now in place that must be recognized. We are not saying, and I have never said, that we are going to give any special impetus to that part of the system, but simply to recognize what's already there and the approximately 50,000 children who are presently being served by it and the thousands of families who are being served by it. We simply can't ignore that reality.
Question. Order. New question. The member for York South.
Mr. Speaker, by way of new question, I'd like to ask the Minister of Consumer and Commercial Relations a question about car insurance. I wonder if the Minister could perhaps explain to me how it is that Rena Matsumoto, who's only 25 years old, driving for 5 years, no previous accident, no lost points, had one accident in a parking lot. If the Minister can explain how her rate increased to $2,634 a year from $800. How it is that Fran Bates of Toronto, who's a first-time driver in her mid-40s, is being asked to pay $2,749 a year in Ontario. How it is that the Pierce family is being asked to pay $6,890 in the province of Ontario. And how it is that Mr. John Adamakopoulos, who owns AB Towing, has seen his rates go from $29,084.85 to $255,950 in 1987. I wonder if the Minister can explain those rate increases to the people of Ontario.
Mr. Speaker, I can't explain specific rate increases because I don't know the circumstances, but I can say to you that the rating system in Ontario is based on historical data. It is based on figures that are fed into the insurance industry. And if he'd like me to investigate those things to see if there is other rates available, I'd be happy to do it.
Supplementary?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't think that the Minister can solve these problems because I think they've been put before his ministry in many instances, and there's nothing that the ministry has been able to do. I wonder if the Minister can explain how it is that the province of Manitoba is able to provide rates for similar drivers in similar situations. In the case of Ms. Matsumoto, from a difference between $2,634 and $493. In the case of Fran Bates, a difference between $2,749 and $609. In the case of the Pierce family, a difference between $6,890 and $1,430. And in the case of Mr. Adamakopoulos, and AB Towing a difference, and I hope you're listening to this, Mr. Speaker, because it is so astounding, the difference between $259,000 and $19,925 in the province of Manitoba. Can you explain that kind of a rip-off to the citizens of this province who are being ripped off systematically by the insurance industry in this province?
And you're helping it by
Mr. Speaker, I don't know if I understood the leader of the third party's question. Is he saying that the government-run insurance industry in Manitoba is prepared to provide coverage to those Toronto or Ontario residents at those rates? Or is he saying, is that what he is saying? Yeah. All right, if he is saying that, it would be very interesting, and I'd be very happy to entertain that. But if he isn't, and if he is saying that in Manitoba, those are the comparable rates, well then, of course, his argument is silly, because in Ontario, even before the government got into the insurance industry, there has been a significant difference in rates. In 1968, there was a significant discrepancy in the rates, depending on whether or not the insurance was provided in Western Canada or whether it's provided in Ontario. But I'd like to hear his comment before we proceed further.
Final supplementary. Final supplementary, the member for Welland Thorold.
By way of supplementary, Mr. Speaker, I would just like to remind the minister that he comes into this legislature time after time and parrots what the insurance companies tell him to say, and tends to refute that the rates are far lower in Manitoba than they are here. Why do you not, Mr. Minister, honor the resolution passed by this House on December the 4th and order the comprehensive study and comparison of the public insurance plans versus the Ontario system? And when you do that, will you assure that the study and report is done by an independent, respected firm like Woods Gordon and includes comparison of rates, details of cost of operation, and information on return to the system of interest on investment?
Order.
And promise.
Order.
And
Order. We're not debating the resolution. This response, Minister?
Mr. Speaker, the members of the third party are always extolling the virtues of the insurance industry in Manitoba and in British Columbia. I have in my hand a publication known as Mandate. It's put out by the Canadian Federation of the Independent Business. Fine. Wait till you hear the results before you start laughing. In a survey across the country, they asked about insurance. They said members in British Columbia and Manitoba reported the greatest incidence of large increases, with 29% in both provinces having to pay increases of more than 50%.
Now, wait it.
Perhaps the members would allow me to recognize members in an orderly fashion without all interject. Order. The member for Brantford with a new question.
That's a classic.
Well, I guess that's the last we'll ever hear about auto insurance from you guys. Mr. Speaker,
To which minister?
my question is to the Minister of Municipal Affairs. Through you, Mr. Speaker. Minister, in the last number of weeks, my colleague from Brock and I have asked you a number of times about an internal investigation you are conducting into the rather controversial land sale in Vaughan. This investigation seems to be dragging on and on. I wonder if the minister can confirm to the House that this matter is in fact serious enough that the OPP has been called in to investigate the matter?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I can only advise my friend that the allegations are serious enough that an investigation is still going on. And until I do get a report, it'll be the first one to hear about it.
Supplementary?
By way of supplementary, Mr. Speaker, the OPP have in fact confirmed to my office that they're investigating this matter, and I want to indicate to the Minister where we see this leading. You're part of a government which has the OPP investigating WIDA, Spectrum, the Downsview Hospital, the member for Kingston, and Lord knows what else. But there's a common problem. There's a common problem with this, Minister. These investigations lead to a report which in turn ends up on the desk of the Attorney General, and in this case, along with the others that I just mentioned, the matters under investigation have very close ties to the government and to the Liberal Party. By way of supplementary, would the Minister not see the wisdom of calling a Municipal Act inquiry, as you are empowered to do, which takes it out of the government and before an independent body? You are empowered to do this, and in fact it has been requested by a number of citizens in the town of Vaughan.
You're going to need a new police force over there.
Mr. Speaker, the member is quite right. Under the petitioner, under Section 180 of the Municipal Act, asked the ministry, yes, 6 months ago, you're right, maybe a little longer than this, maybe a little longer. But, Mr. Speaker, the ministry conducted and is still conducting an inquiry as to the seriousness of the allegations or the rumors. And now, if you tell me that the OPP have told you that they are investigating, I would like to know who told you this and when. I would like to know. Mr. Speaker, the allegations are serious enough that it needs a thorough investigation, and that's exactly what we are doing. And if the member, for the second time, Mr. Speaker, for the second time in this House, I don't think the member has any faith in the Ontario Provincial Police. And I can remind them, if they are investigating, if they are, Mr. Speaker, I'm waiting for a report from them.
Mr. Speaker. On a point of order, Mr. Speaker, I would have thought that the Minister heard his Premier's retraction of that imputation of motive. I would say that the Minister should withdraw that. I have complete faith in the OPP. It's not me that uses them as a catering service, it's you guys.
Order. 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 I think to try to keep order, and because of what I said earlier, I would ask the Minister to withdraw. Will the Minister withdraw?
Mr. Speaker, I said if.
Order.
Remember.
Order. Yeah. Would the Minister withdraw?
Mr. Speaker, I'll withdraw.
Thank you. The new question. The member for Etobicoke.
I have a question to the Minister of Consumer and Commercial Relations. Now that Ryan Homes, a subsidiary of the Georgian Group, headed by Mr. Tony Maida, has had its license, at least temporarily, removed, can the Minister tell me whether or not he's aware that another subsidiary of Georgian Homes, namely Barbrook Mills Incorporated, operating in Oakville, also headed by Mr. Tony Maida, is using a similar exit clause to get out of a contract, or in lieu of that, to have a reduction of 1,000 square feet per home from those people who have purchased homes from that company? And if so, what does the Minister intend to do about that other subsidiary headed by Mr. Tony Maida, a subsidiary of the Georgian Group also?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member will know that what happened with the Ryan Homes is that the registrar of the new home warranty program notified them that they were proceeding to withdraw registration. The principals have 15 days to appeal it to CRAT, and that particular situation is in that state. Tomorrow afternoon, I expect that the building industry will be making an announcement on how they expect to deal with this problem. I've instructed the people at the new home warranty program to be ever vigilant and looking at situations just as the member has described. And if we find that those practices are being carried out, we will do exactly what we did with Ryan and proceed to remove their registration.
Supplementary.
Assuming that you do remove another couple of registrations, what is preventing a large conglomerate like Georgian Homes with many subsidiary companies from simply, on the removal of the registration, transferring those properties that it holds under the deregistered company to a registered company and selling at the higher inflated cost and thereby ripping off the consumer the same way as they were before? What's to prevent that, unless you're going to deal with Georgian Homes per se, rather than their numerous subsidiary companies one at a time?
Mr. Speaker, the member will know that in the order from the new home warranty program, those houses that are under dispute have been frozen. They can't be sold to anyone else until the matter has been resolved by CRAT.
New question. The member for Cochrane South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my questions to the Premier, and it arises from his inexplicable refusal to order a judicial inquiry into the WIDA matter, and the Premier has now had the weekend to consider his position on this. And we have had no word from the Premier on whether or not a judicial inquiry will be called, nor have we had any information from the Solicitor General, the Attorney General, or the Premier on the scope of the OPP investigation. I think we're entitled to know, being a member of the Public Accounts Committee. And therefore, I'd like to ask the Premier, what is the scope of the OPP investigation? The Public Accounts Committee unanimously found that Mr. Kaplan, for instance, had an interest in WIDA, that he was the Vice President of Administration and Finance, that on the morning of April the 10th he negotiated the final payouts of the debts of the company that are now under investigation. The Public Accounts Committee unanimously found these facts and unanimously asked some 4 months ago for a forensic audit, not just of WIDA, but of Avi Dubzinski, Mr. Kaplan and his company, Mr. Fleischman and his company. Are they all under investigation by the OPP?
Premier.
Mr. Speaker, to be very frank, I don't know all the terms of reference of the OPP, but may I make this suggestion to you? Why don't you get in touch with the OPP and tell them the things you think should be investigated, and I'm sure they should all be looked into.
Supplementary, the member for Brantford.
Does the Premier not see that by continuing to refuse a public judicial inquiry into this matter, that in fact you're putting your own Attorney General in a very difficult situation? As long as the OPP investigation and the investigation ongoing within the ministry ends up on that minister's desk, when that minister, as was evidenced before the committee, attended a meeting with principals involved in this in terms of preparing evidence. Now, will the Premier not see that it is in the better interest of the public, but indeed of his own government, that this be taken outside, put before a justice, where an impartial third party can review this matter and come to some conclusions?
Premier.
Again, and I don't want to rethrash old straw, Mr. Speaker, but I think that the OPP is an impartial third party. You may not. I do. I have great faith in their ability to get on with the matter, and I say let the police do their job. They're there, and if my honorable friend has any particular problems they want investigated, I gather he talks to them regularly, you share with them the information you think should be investigated. I think it's a proceeding as quickly as can be done in the circumstances, and certainly the committee of which you're a part has the opportunity anytime they want to call anybody before it, look at anything you want to look at. I have no problem with that. We're trying to get to the bottom of this very quickly.
New question, the member for Sudbury East.
I have a question of the Minister of Labour regarding the courthouse in London. In June, work started at the courthouse by the Ministry of Government Services. An inspector a contractor was not advised that there was friable asbestos in the building, despite the fact there had been a report since 1980. Ministry of Labour issued a stop work order. Minister of Government Services ignored the stop work order, ordered the contractor back to work, and last Thursday when I raised it with the minister, he gave me some platitudinous answer. Is the minister aware that at exactly the same time he was giving me his answer on Thursday, that one of his inspectors was issuing yet another stop work order to the minister at the courthouse, that the same contractor was involved, and the Ministry of Government Services was involved in replacement of a door which had led to the taking down of a wall containing friable asbestos.
Minister?
And if the minister is aware of all these facts, can the minister tell me if charges are to be laid against A, the company, and B, the Ministry of Government Services, who have gone on this way for the past 3 or 4 years?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't think it'll surprise the honourable member that to know that we're not in a position to yet to make any determination in terms of charges. I am aware of the facts, as the honourable member points them out, that Mr. Armstrong issued a stop work order on Thursday of last week in the early part of the afternoon, and that the stop work order, that the issues surrounding the stop work order were dealt with, were complied with, and that Mr. Armstrong lifted the stop work order on Friday afternoon.
Supplementary?
Well, since on Thursday your inspector, Mr. Ken Armstrong, was correct in writing the order, can you tell me the following two things? A, why your supervisor, who's the same supervisor who covered up, I might say, with respect to the prosecution against Pro Electric, went after the inspector for doing his job? And can you explain to me why the one worker who refused to work in there and has appealed the dismissal, why your ministry has not laid charges under Section 24 of the Act, because this woman has been intimidated and dismissed because she refused to work? Where are you again on this crucial issue?
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I thought the quite extensive discussions were undertaken with the woman who was involved in terms of the second floor of the London courthouse in the earlier June incident, and at that time, the individual involved expressed a willingness to not pursue the matter. That was her choice. That was her view at the time. It may well have changed, and I'll take a look at that. Mr. Speaker, I must say that, and I say this with some regret, and I acknowledge, Mr. Speaker, that there is a disagreement as to matters which followed between Mr. Armstrong and his immediate supervisor. But I must say with regret that my honourable friend has accused the immediate supervisor of covering up another matter which has been under investigation, by Mr. Laskin. Now, I would say to my honourable friend, I'm well aware of the Pro Electric incident. I would have thought that my honourable friend would not have reached a judgment, but rather would have waited for the Laskin report to see what Mr. Laskin finds the facts to be in that case, as in many others.
The member for Sudbury East. Order. The member for Sudbury East has already asked the question. A supplementary. New question. The member for Durham York.
Yes, I have a question for the Minister of Industry, Trade and Technology. Last week I read a statement on Interoil, a company whose one principal lives in my riding. Why do you suppose the Minister of Energy would pull the plug on Interoil just when they have won 2 major awards for energy technology in the United States, and just when furnace sales are about to take off and expand considerably?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I would suggest that you ask that question to the Minister of Energy.
That's right. Good answer. That's right. Order. You wish to supplementary?
No,
I'm just asking.
Was that a redirect?
No, the minister said that he wished you would ask that question to the minister. He didn't redirect. Do you wish it redirected? It's redirected to the Minister of Energy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yes, certainly I have been fully aware of this whole situation. And, Mr. Speaker, the government of Ontario put $1,100,000 into this whole circumstance, and the private sector put in about 10%. On that basis, we thought that that would be a very viable company. And if it can't go with those kind of proportions of taxpayers' money in it, you could realize why this government decided that it wasn't worth pursuing.
Supplementary?
Well, now, Mr. Minister, all of this is going to the United States. The American company is now prepared to bankroll the development of these furnaces to the tune of in excess of $800,000, with sales expectations in 87 of $3.6 million and in 88 of $4.7 million. Do you want these furnaces built in Ontario, or do you want them built in New York?
They're going to be built. Mr. Speaker, we want everything that's possible to be built in the province of Ontario. But I can't believe that those people sitting over there should suggest that this government should put 90% of a venture in. We're trying to get out of those things. We're trying to get the private sector and those people that have the initiative make those kind of things go. And in many instances,
Order.
You want to hear the answer or don't you? The fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, that the taxpayers of Ontario subsidize that to a great degree, and as I said, some 90%. I think that's being more than helpful. Mr. Speaker, this evidence that's being brought before us is something that I don't have, because they had many hundreds of thousands of dollars, some $300,000 worth of stock that could not be sold. Now, if there's some new interest that's going to put up that kind of money, it's something new to us. Because if they could have found another private investor, if they could have found a private investor that would put in the kind of money that you're talking about, this government would be pleased to participate. That's not what happened, and you know it.
New question? New question. Order. That matter's been dealt with. New question, the member for Lakeshore.
Speaker, I have a question for the Minister of the Environment. It is now some months since the Minister announced that he was prepared to build a pipeline to Wallaceburg and Walpole Island, so that those communities would no longer have to rely on the St. Clair River for the source of their drinking water. The Minister promised that he would pay 75% of the capital cost after the federal contribution had been deducted, but he left it to the local councils, Mr. Speaker, to deal with the federal government. The Federal Minister of the Environment has now said he will not make a contribution. I would like to ask the Minister, in the light of that refusal, what is the Minister's commitment to the Wallaceburg pipeline?
Zero. Well, as the member would know, first of all, Mr. Speaker, this has been a long discussed project in terms of tying in not simply the communities that you've mentioned, but other communities along the way. And the member for Chatham-Kent has, on a number of occasions, discussed this matter with me in great depth, as others in the House and their municipalities discuss those matters. What I indicated was, of course, in these situations where we have an international component to the problem, that is, where we're dealing with an international waterway, it would be desirable to have the participation of the federal government. To this point in time, I have not been notified. In fairness, the member I know likes to be fair, and in fairness to this point in time, I have not received notification from the Minister of the Environment of Canada that he is not prepared to intervene in a financial way, in a very positive way in this case. But I can tell the member that in that eventuality, we will be discussing further possibilities as it relates to the financial arrangements.
Supplementary?
Speaker, I'm sure the Minister likes to be fair also, and quite frankly, I don't think it's fair of the Minister, whose jurisdiction drinking water is in its entirety, to say that he's waiting for the federal government. Mr. Speaker, the gap is growing between the illusion of the Minister's announcements and the reality of pollution problems that remain unsolved. It's now over a year since we had a special debate in this House on the question of drinking water, at which point the Minister announced that he was preparing a drinking water strategy. Mr. Speaker, may I conclude from the Minister's remarks today that his drinking water strategy is to announce commitments that are dependent upon a federal government contribution and then to blame the federal government when the contribution doesn't come through.
Right on. Minister?
Well, I think if the member were to examine the actions that this government has taken over the past 17 months, she would not, in fact, come to that conclusion. I can indicate to the member that she would be aware that at a conference that took place this weekend at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, in fact, that a very strong lobbying effort was made by those municipalities right across Canada to secure the kind of federal participation that we feel is necessary, and in fact, that used to be in effect at one time. I know that the member would not want me to abandon those efforts or not want me to place the federal government in a position where the federal government could easily get off the hook on matters which relate to all municipalities across this country, including ours. And I would say in regard to the specific pipeline that she mentions, she would be aware through her very extensive research that the amount of money that the province has indicated to this point in time that they're prepared to provide is substantially above what would be the normal amount of money that would be forthcoming unless there were an exception made to policy, and that exception has been made.
New question? Order. New question, the member for Simcoe Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Minister of Housing. Mr. Minister, given the huge backlog of residents, over 700 now, waiting for Ontario housing in the city of Barrie, could you enlighten me as to when these people might expect housing?
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member knows that the backlog of supplies of affordable housing has been tremendous. And this government has tried to address that problem, and as you know, these problems could not be resolved in a year or so. As you know, too, my honourable friend knows that the last year we have approved 19,000 social houses plus with market housing subsidies. And to ask about when Barrie can receive, I can't immediately tell you what project was approved in Barrie offhand. But however, that wherever the need was, we tried to address. Not all areas were addressed, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, by the time our 5-year program is around, that many of those areas will be addressed.
Supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Minister, there are 310 families, not people, but families, who have been waiting for Ontario housing for over a year, 95 seniors, and 35 handicapped that are handicapped in one form or another. Well, can you not give the House today the assurance that your ministry will at least review the case with respect to Barrie, given the tremendous growth rate and the fact that the occupancy rate in apartments in the city of Barrie is 0? Can you not at least give us the assurance that you'll review it and perhaps take a look at the situation to give us more housing? We can't just leave these people hanging as we have in the past.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I can empathize with the honourable member, and I know that in your area there is a need, and so there are needs across the province, tremendous needs. And as you said, that the waiting lists are very, very long. The waiting list is long because of the shortage of affordable rental units. However, Mr. Speaker, that it's impossible, really, to address all those needs in 1 year. I cannot pull one from out of those applications and feel that I could review those. You must understand that there's a process, and you'll be the first one who will stand up in the House and say to me, where's the process? Why have I selected those separate from the others? There is a process, Mr. Speaker. We follow those, and I do empathize with those who are in need and hope that we will address them as soon as possible.
New question, the member for Windsor Riverside.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question to the Minister of Health. I'd like to ask the Minister what the status of the application for funding for the Immigrants Women's Centre here in Toronto is, and why the Minister to date has not responded to 3 letters from this group requesting funding for a project that costs $65,000 and has the mobile community health centre which reaches many immigrant women in this city that would not be met by the traditional health care system.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable gentleman for the question. I have made an inquiry into the current status and hope to make a report very shortly to the honourable gentleman. We talked about this last week just briefly, and I will be providing him directly with information on that. I can tell the honourable gentleman that we have a number of programs which are currently under review. There are a number of questions of program intent and component, and it's my presumption, without having seen a detailed report on that particular one, that this may be one of the ones with similar studies being made at this time.
Supplementary.
Speaker, the minister, I'm sure, will remember the fact that on April 25th he gave a speech to public health and community workers in which he highlighted the work of the Immigrant Women's Centre here in Toronto and set it out as being a centre of great example to the entire province. If it's a good enough centre for you to brag about, even though you don't fund it, why can't the ministry respond to the letters that the group have sent to you requesting a meeting and provide funding? Because if funding is not provided, the work that they do to the Italian community, the Portuguese community, and other communities within Toronto will cease March 31st of next year.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I understand the component of funding now that is helping to sustain this organization is in fact a municipal one. I indicated to my colleague that I would be looking at the problems that are associated with having some announcement about the status of that. I'm trying to find that information, and will be receiving, I'm sure, this week, a full report from the program people with respect to meetings or otherwise. I can tell the honourable gentleman, that we will respond to those letters when I have some detailed information about what it is that seems to be holding up a discussion or finalizing of a decision on the matter. And I can tell the honourable gentleman that there are a number of programs in this province which have shown a very clear and capable way of dealing with needs in the community, which we have not funded, but which I think we would like to laud as organizations which promote and in fact assist the provision of good care in this province of ours. And I like to highlight those programs as much as I like to highlight the programs which are involved, funded by the Ministry of Health or any part of the government, because they are a substantial and an important part of our healthcare system.
New question. The member for Leeds.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Minister of Colleges and Universities. A couple of weeks ago, I was apprised of the fact that St. Lawrence College, the three campuses of St. Lawrence College, were establishing computer stores on campus to sell IBM computers and computer-related equipment. I'm wondering, Mr. Speaker, is the Minister aware of this initiative, and if he is, does he support it?
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I can honestly tell my friend that I'm not aware of the issue, and I wouldn't want to tell him whether I support it or don't support it until I got more information. And I assume that he'll have additional information in his supplementary, so I await it.
Supplementary?
Well, for once, Mr. Speaker, the Minister is correct. I do have a little bit of additional information, and one of the concerns expressed was the fact that computers sold through community college outlets would be selling at something like 20% less than through small business outlets. I think John Bullock, the president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Businessmen, described this government as the most anti-business government in Canada. And Mr. Speaker, I would ask the minister to make himself familiar with this matter and to take whatever action is necessary, because this can seriously impact on many small businesses across the province.
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my friend raises a rather interesting point. If it were 20% over what small business, or if it were what small business were selling it for, the critic that sits just a couple of seats away from him would say, why is the minister allowing these outrageous costs to be foisted upon students? Computer hardware and computer software is an absolute necessity for a number of students in a variety of community college programs. And certainly, if St. Lawrence College is providing an environment where the students can get those materials, whether it's hardware or software, at a reasonable price, I would support it. But I don't want to say that I unequivocally support it until I get more information.
New question? Member for Oakwood.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Minister of Education.
Given, Mr. Minister, that in the last week and a half, a coalition of many cultural groups in this province have come together in support of Bill 80, and given the fact, Mr. Minister, that during the summer or prior in June, you made a commitment to me that you will review the heritage language program and you will let me know by summer's end whether you will be willing to change the policy to make the heritage language program part of the elementary school system during the 5-hour school day. Will the minister tell us whether on Thursday his government will support Bill 80?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, it is true that the honourable member has made a number of representations to me over the last number of weeks and months. As a matter of fact, I was looking for him last Wednesday or Thursday, I think it was Wednesday, in the chamber because we had agreed to have a chat on the subject, and I know he was unavoidably detained elsewhere because I was in the precinct and we, for whatever reason, missed one another. The member knows that this party has been very supportive of heritage languages. We have never disguised our interest in and support for that very important and positive part of education. The honourable member knows as well that we're going to be debating his private member's ballot item on Thursday. He would not surely, Mr. Speaker, want me to in any way prejudge that debate. I'm very anxious to have the private members of this assembly have an unfettered opportunity to speak their mind, as I know my friend just disappearing over the horizon from Scarborough Centre will want to express his opinion from both the point of view of Scarborough and the official opposition. And so, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say to the honourable member, I will look forward, Mr. Speaker, as I know other members will, to the debate that will take place, led by the honourable member for Oakwood, on this subject in this place on Thursday of this week.
All questions has expired.